Although llamas have been known to kill predators, such as coyotes, they should not be considered attack animals.
All right, here we go. Today is Tuesday, May 17th, 2016, and this is episode 160, the long in the coming episode 160. And my name is Jerry Bell, and joining me tonight, as always, is Mr. Andrew Callett.
Hello, Jerry. How you doing tonight, sir?
Super duper. How about you?
I am doing pretty well. Sorry we disappeared for a little while. After the Verizon data breach report came out and all the controversy surrounding it, we had to go to an undisclosed safe location for a few weeks.
Yeah, and there were lawyers and depositions and judges and bounty hunters and, yeah, llamas.
Llamas and
Ocelots. That's right. There were
which
ocelots.
we recently learned through a graphic demonstration that the ocelot is a natural predator of the llama. It was, wow,
Very unfortunate.
seared into my brain.
Yeah.
When do you think the ocelot figured out that was really just a person in a llama costume?
About 2 or 3 minutes in.
I'd imagine. Once the screaming truly stopped.
I think they bleed the same. Once
It's true.
you get in there, right? But
So, just before I say this next thing, thoughts and opinions of us are ours and do not reflect those of our employers, past, present, and future. Okay, now I feel safe. So before we get into all the stories, any thoughts on the controversy swirling around the Verizon data breach report? Because it's been pretty vocal, especially around the CVEs that were commonly exploited in some of the stuff in that report.
yeah, and I will say it's been a day or two since I've seen any emails about it, but there has been just a nonstop barrage of emails on some of the different mailing lists, like Security Metrics, talking about this and you know where did the data come from and how come everybody can't get data from the NSA and you know the don't we realize that IDS data is you know is very prone to false positives. And anyway, I'm going to guess I'm going to pull out my crystal ball and say that the group that wrote that report this year probably won't be writing that vulnerability section next year, because that seems like just a monumental pain in the
Ouch.
ass. No, and I don't mean that because I don't think they'll be invited. I'm going to
Okay.
guess because it was such a monumental headache in response.
Well, do you think there's some accuracy issues there?
Well, I think the challenge is that there was there was two different expectations, right? There was what it was. So if you listen, even read what Michael Reutman wrote, he's basically saying that, if you take these two different sets of data and you smash them together, this is what falls out, right? And so kind of knowing full well that's not a perfect thing, right? But given the data that we have available to us, here's what we see. And of course, everybody in the industry kind of intuitively knows, well, the CVEs that were referenced don't really make a lot of sense, right? Because a lot of them are man-in-the-middle type attacks, which you really wouldn't be able to determine from that kind of a vantage point if an attacker has the ability to launch a man-in-the-middle attack. So it's not kind of even negating the fact that that's probably not the most significant thing that would be going on. So anyway, it's I suspect lessons learned for everybody. Kind of be skeptical and ask questions when you read reports about the methodology. But I think to their credit, they did do some in the DBIR, they did do some disclosure of the methods used, but obviously nobody reads fine print, and I'm not sure it was all that clear. Anyway.
Well, and I think part of it too is that this is such a well-respected report that when you're on top, and people perceive you to have made an error.
Oh yeah.
They're going to come after you a little harder than that particular report kind of set the standard for that, and now everybody and their brothers releasing reports. So of that ilk.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I do think. I mean, I'm a huge fan of the Verizon Data Breach Report. I support it. We take a lot of time to prepare for it and cover it. But I do feel that information, even if it's accurate, is not useful. It is not what I think we needed to know what to better defend our environment against, because it's not relatively. It's not relating what's really happening on the street of the drive-by flash attacks and cross-site scripting attacks and
that's by the way been a lot of the criticism around that particular section of the report is you have on the one side people saying, well, look, there are people, and I think you even mentioned it last when we talked about this. People take a look at that and say, oh, we should go look at go plug these CVEs in and see what's going on, because these are the top things that are being exploited. And then on the other side, people are saying, well, if you are that, I mean, I'm paraphrasing, right? But if you're that dumb, to not use your brain and figure out that that's those CVEs aren't what you think they are, then I'm not sure what you're doing in that job. That's kind of been the two ends of the spectrum.
Well, even the updated CVE list didn't feel like it accurately reflected what I think we see as the common attacks out there. And so I'm looking at the report as something that says, look, I need to know where to focus my limited resources.
Yeah.
What's really going on out there? And I really feel that the CVEs they mentioned as the top 10 are not a good reflection of where I should be spending my resources.
No, and I think that's the lesson learned for everybody, I think, all the way around, because again, all they were doing was correlating IDS fires with vulnerability scan data. And so, basically they saw lots of hosts that were vulnerable to, let's say, Freak or Poodle or whatever, and then they saw lots of traffic that appeared to be trying to exploit those things. And then bam, there it goes up on the list. And that's it. Unfortunately, I think the methodology-wise, it doesn't necessarily mean that the host was compromised. And so, I think they were whatever, right?
Yeah, I surprised this topic on you. We didn't even prepare to talk about this topic, but it's
I think the lesson is for everybody. You have to be a little skeptical when you read these reports, because there are some times that it appears obvious what they're trying to communicate, but that's not what's actually being communicated. And I think this is a great example. And it seemed obvious to everybody. It seemed intuitive what they were trying to say, but that's not in fact what they were doing.
Indeed.
So
I agree.
Anyway, let's see. So, since we've been gone, the world has gone to a hell in a handbasket. I mean, we had the world-ending ImageMagick bug, right? And let's see, what other... I guess we'll talk about one. The first story, in fact, was kind of another world-ending bug, which was from bankinfosecurity.com that Tavis Ormandy has apparently found that Symantec's antivirus not only has some pretty significant bugs, buffer overflows and stuff like that, but also that it processes or scans, at least in some respects, the malware in the context of the kernel, which is totally awesome. And so the net was his statement says, all you have to do to own or compromise a computer running Symantec antivirus, a vulnerable version of Symantec antivirus, is send an email. They don't even have to open it. It just has to come into their inbox, which is
Just be processed through the engine, basically.
which is just awesome.
Yeah, and I was thinking about this too, and this could be an absolutely incorrect assumption. So I'm going to put that out there. But things are fast when they're processed in the kernel, right? That's the fastest way to do something typically, just in general, right? In Windows computing, from my vague understanding of programming, the kernel is the fastest way to go. So I'm wondering if the reason they were processing this in the kernel wasn't just for permissions, but also for speed, because Windows users are very sensitive to speed.
It's true. I honestly don't know the intention behind that, but that seems like a pretty good guess.
And I'm just wondering, ultimately, if this is a reaction to the marketplace saying, AV is nice and all, but it's causing me too much lag, so make it faster. Whatever you got to do, just make it faster.
Yeah, it's, and I'm not going to mention any names, but I've been looking at lots of security products recently, and I'll tell you, a lot of them almost, and I will actually say they kind of advertise as a feature that they link really deeply into the operating system, kind of in the context of the kernel, which says that, while it's unfortunate that Symantec has some vulnerabilities, I'm not sure that they're the only game in town that's doing this and this kind of stuff in the kernel. And so I think, to an extent, we're probably all holding our nose and pointing at them and saying, "What the hell are you doing?" But I don't think they're alone in that respect. Which kind of says, we've talked about this in the past. This technology is fallible.
Yep.
And gosh, this is so frustrating because in layperson terms, so many people think about antivirus as, well, I don't need to worry about, patching because I have antivirus. I can do whatever I want because I have antivirus. I can use the same password everywhere because I have antivirus. And, here you have a case where, well, that antivirus and other security products can, in fact, increase your attack surface. And so what do you do about that?
True, but is this a pocket case? Is this something that, in general, the value of a security tool outweighs the risk?
Oh, I would generally say so. I'm not sure that it's a pocket case because I think if you look at the work of Tavis Ormandy,
Right.
he's got left kind of a bloody trail of carcasses along the road. I think the issue is that this is unlike other applications like mainline Microsoft products and Oracle and Flash and Java and all that stuff that are just hammered all the time. I get the sense that that's not been done with antivirus.
Well, I think we're on the cusp of that.
Yeah, right, and so I think we're just seeing the, I guess, technical debt, for a lack of a better term, right? That because I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago there was another report about, I think it was Symantec 2, who had some problems because they hadn't turned on some really kind of brain dead security features when they compile their products.
Yeah. Well, everybody, this is no excuse, but everybody does make mistakes. Now, we hold these guys to a higher expectation and to a higher level of discipline on this stuff, I feel. And it certainly is a much bigger deal when a major security player has an issue like this. But at the end of the day, it's good that people are looking for this stuff. Though I I don't know how to equate this well, but I get this feeling that for every one vulnerability found like this, I wonder how many more are out there that go unfound.
Uh, it's kind of indeterminate. you know,
Yeah.
Obviously, if you look at other products, Microsoft products in particular, obviously they're not. It's not one for one comparison, but one would think, well, maybe at some point we run out of bugs, but there just doesn't seem to be. That doesn't seem to be in the cards.
No, we're always designing and developing new code, so we're always finding new ways to integrate. We're finding new ways to, pull things together and open APIs and all these things that are always opening up new attack surfaces on code. Always, always, always. I don't think that's ever going to go away. But
well, I mean, even with with older products, we continue to find new bugs, and I think a lot of it is just different people looking at things from a different perspective.
Sure, and accumulated knowledge about different ways that things can be exploited.
Yeah.
We see a class of bug come out, and then people scramble around to test other stuff. Oh, well, that's an interesting technique. Let me see if that works over here.
Yeah,
so
and you
continual knowledge transfer there.
You can bet that most of the antivirus companies are furiously trying to determine if they have some of these problems. At least I would think they are.
I would hope so, but this is one of those really tough situations where you get within your own echo chamber and drink your own Kool-Aid. And this might have very well been a conscious decision made by Symantec for some other consideration and reason. And, that was just, that's just the way we do things here.
Yeah. Well, I guess I don't mean the running in the kernel part. I mean the vulnerability part.
Yeah. No, I mean, somewhat that too. Like, I just wonder, how many times have we seen evidence where big engineering mistakes come out? And somebody somewhere said, yeah, we warned them about that, but leadership took a different decision because of X, Y, Z.
Yep. It's called the, by the way, if you're interested, there's a whole field of study behind that. It's called the normal accident theory.
Sure. And I think a lot of us were probably exposed to that with the Challenger explosion.
Yep. At Chernobyl and 3 Mile Island and on and on and on. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. I think I've said it before. The road to hell is paved with accepted risks. So, anyway, it's I do think that this is not the end. I suspect we're just kind of at the beginning of a probably pretty contentious road. For me, the challenge is that now there's a couple of different problems. Number one is you're effectively installing this. I mean, generally we have antivirus agents on all of our stuff.
Yeah,
and it's usually from the same company.
And regardless of what industry pundits would like to say, we're not going to get away from that anytime soon.
That's very true. But think about it from the perspective of systemic risk. I mean, in this particular case, there's a patch out. There's, as far as I know, no known exploit available. It was responsibly disclosed and blah blah blah. But that might not have been the case. And in the case, in this particular case, my understanding is it's exploitable on all the different platforms. And so now think about this. Like, it doesn't matter if you're talking your Linux systems and your Windows systems. You probably have the same antivirus agent across all of them, because nobody buys 7 different antivirus endpoint antivirus agents. That just doesn't make sense.
No, not from a manageability standpoint. We've talked about this as well, of having like multiple firewall vendors.
Right. And so now, anyway, I don't have a great, it's kind of a unvarnished thought, but it just seems really kind of scary to think about, having one piece of software like this, which is proving out to be relatively unbattle tested, installed across your entire estate, with kind of sitting in a position where it's actively inspecting most things that come its way. So it's a little troublesome. Hey, there was one thing I wanted to mention at the beginning of the show, because this is something we hammer on a bunch. It was a fascinating discussion about naming vulnerabilities. So this is like the topic change turn signal right here.
Okay, I have been forewarned that we are changing topics.
So it was on the Risky Business podcast. I think it was last week. They all bleed together for me, but Patrick was interviewing. Gosh, I don't remember who it was. I think it was from Slack. The person who found the ImageMagick bug,
Okay.
or I don't know if he found it or was the one that decided to raise the alarm. I don't really remember. That's not very important. The important part was,
Is it just not important because you can't remember?
yes,
All right.
that's
Very
right. That's right.
Mhm.
That's what we say when we want to divert attention from our lack of remembering.
Man,
So
Alzheimer's is a bitch. Okay, go on.
yeah, it is. So anyway, this person pointed out that they wrote up a blog post and tried to publicize it. This is a pretty serious bug, and nobody paid attention to it, or very, 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 very few people paid attention to it. Yet it was really serious, and so they, I guess they kind of had early on, even before they wrote the initial post, they had a joke about how they should, brand it and name it, but they didn't. They just wrote up a post about it, said, "Hey,
That'll teach them.
maybe we should patch ImageMagick," and nobody paid attention. So they registered a website and made a logo and started making lots of noise about it. And sure enough, it got lots of attention and people started patching it. So
Wow.
yeah, it's kind of like
But it's got a value diminishing returns. We can only have so many named vulnerabilities before we start tuning it out, like IDS alerts. This only
I-
works for so long.
I don't disagree. I think it's a terrible practice, and that anybody who does it should feel terrible for themselves. Or about themselves. I think that yeah, I know.
They're bad and they should feel bad. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, but this is kind of a counter example that, well, not doing it sometimes doesn't. But then again,
Okay. Okay, so let me equate this. We're at the phase of website development where somebody discovered the blink tag. And so they're using the blink tag. And for the first month or two, it was cool until it's annoying as hell.
well, then they'll move on to the marquee tag.
The scrolling tag. What's sad is probably half our audience is too young to even know the hell we went through during the blinky phase of website development.
That's right. They don't remember the blinking 12 o'clock on the VCR either. So.
We had to walk uphill both ways in the snow to get on the internet.
That's right. We had this noisy box that would connect us to the internet very slowly.
Leave your wife out of this.
Oh my God. So yeah. So anyway, that's
Now I'm going to get it.
yeah.
I've crossed the line now.
You crossed the line, buddy.
Yeah. So that is interesting. That maybe they should have bought a promoted Twitter.
Oh,
tweet.
they registered a Twitter account too for it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the concern I have is, are we just really bad at at reacting to things like that? I mean, that's ImageMagick is one of those things that's every damn where. It is like shell shock, right?
No, we're reliant on a fairly small group of influential people to tell us what to care about.
I suppose.
It is the echo chamber of InfoSec. There's a couple of websites, there's a couple of blogs, there's a couple of people. When I say couple, I mean probably a couple of dozen. That if they pick it up and run with it, it matters.
I suppose. I'm not on board with this though. I'm a conscientious objector.
That's okay. You're allowed to be wrong. That's fine.
You can't stop me from being wrong, huh?
But no, that's why I honestly think it is that we're running through the day. If whatever blog or website or whatever doesn't write an article about it, you might pick it up in your vulnerability management tool, but you're not going to go crazy over it.
Yeah, fair enough.
And
God, what is wrong with us?
It's how we process information, man. We specialize and we allow, we delegate decision making to those we trust, whether we know it or not, because we cannot cope with all the information coming at us all at once. It's the same thing we do. It's where prejudice and stereotype and all that stuff comes from. It is our way of coping with a vast amount of information being thrown at us. I'm not saying it's right, but I'm saying that's how our brains work. That's how they evolved. We can overcome it and we can adapt away from it and we can be aware of these cognitive biases and deal with it. But that is exactly how our brains work.
Mm-hmm. So you just apologized for Hitler, didn't you?
That was amazingly fast.
I know.
I mean, you don't even...
I know. I just cut right to the chase.
You didn't take me to dinner. You didn't kiss me goodnight. You just bent me over on that one. That was, wow.
So speaking of bending over, our next story comes from... See, that was awesome, wasn't it?
That is podcast magic right there.
From v3.co.uk, and the title is Hackers Exploiting 6-Year-Old SAP Software Flaw, Warns U.S. CERT. So apparently 36 enterprises, unnamed by the way, I'm assuming you too could probably figure it out if you knew the right query to run in Shodan, but anyway, there are 36 companies running SAP, which is hitting out on the internet with its pants around its ankles, running a configuration that has a 5 or 6-year-old vulnerability that allows complete compromise. And we've talked a lot about in the past, these really big enterprise systems are notoriously hard to patch. And in fact, I'm happy to see they actually acknowledge that in this particular article.
Yeah, they kind of buried that, but yeah.
Normally that gets lost in the noise, but these things, the Oracles and the PeopleSofts and the SAPs, yes, they do often, usually not always, right? But the vendors usually do provide patches when significant problems are found. However, very few companies, none that I'm aware of, have ever implemented these products without serious modifications. And when you apply these patches, it usually breaks those things.
Well, and the way this reads is that the fix was included with apparently some major programming language updates and API changes.
Yes.
So it doesn't appear at first glance that you could apply the fix for this problem without also changing the programming language involved with SAP, which seems annoying to me, that I can't just patch. I have to do a full version upgrade to fix this problem.
Yeah, and that usually involves, a busload of programmers and yeah, ugliness. So anyway.
Well, in this particular case, what I'm calling for here is that it would be nice to get security patches that are completely, version, I guess, retaining the current version, current functionality, unless the patch itself has to change that functionality. It would be nice to be able to patch a security vulnerability without forcing me to upgrade to a whole new version, which breaks other stuff. And I think in general, we would not have the resistance to patch that we do if we could always do that.
Yeah, I just, that's not how these things are designed. And so
I know.
This kind of goes back to the discussion we've had in the past. When an organization takes on one of these things, it's kind of like adopting a kid. You are you are signing up to care and feed for this thing. And so, my experience has been, we like to bring it in. We customize the crap out of it to meet our business. Well, actually, I should take that back. We bring it in, assuming or with the full intention that we will do absolutely no customization, right? Because that would be terrible and will cost lots of money. However, now we've spent 7 or 8 figures on some software, and the business people completely reject it. So now we have to do a whole bunch of customizations, and those customizations don't carry forward through patches, and so some patches, not all patches, but which means that you basically have to carry forward those customizations onto the new platform. And sometimes that involves writing new code. I think a lot of times it's not quite that complicated, but that's not cheap. That is not a cheap thing. But I think the lesson is, for better or for worse, and I know this is not a popular thing for a lot of companies. You really have to it's kind of like when you buy a house. You have to recognize at some point you're going to have to replace the roof, and the water heater and the driveway, and and those are expensive things.
It's true.
And you can't just go and throw a tarp over your house.
But we hired the consultants and they left 4 years ago. So now what?
That's the problem. Yeah.
So the only thing I want to say about this is that this was publicized, found, and has been pushed heavily from a marketing perspective by a company called Onapsis, which, guess what they do?
Wait. Let me guess. It must be something to do with enterprise software vulnerability management.
Specifically for the SAP platform.
Really?
I know.
Holy cow. Are you kidding me?
I guess I'm just saying, take with a slight grain of salt that there's obviously a profit motive in driving this concern.
Wow.
I know. Craziness.
That's really crazy. Anyway, so yeah, I will say it's probably not an awesome idea to have this stuff exposed to the internet if you are aware that it's going to be that hard to patch. The issue is, and I like it's kind of cute how they, and it's only talked about very briefly here, but in the full report or full advisory, they say something to the effect of, not only does this vulnerability allow an attacker complete and utter access to everything in your SAP instance, it probably also allows them access to other things, non-SAP things on your network, which is
wait, what?
Yeah, it's well, I mean, it basically is a reflection point to pivot into your network.
But okay, but getting admin rights on SAP shouldn't automatically give me
I'm
access to other things.
You mean seriously? You think that people use different passwords? Are you serious?
Well, nothing says that they actually get a copy of the password. Just that they invoke remote access with admin rights.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure they've ROT 13 the password, so it's probably totally.
I'm sorry, they're a lot more secure than that. They ROT 26'd it.
Whoa, that's twice as bad.
And they're looking at a patch to go ROT 39.
Wow, hardcore. All right, speaking of hardcore. Our next story, actually there's 2 or 3 stories related to the Bank of Bangladesh SWIFT heist. And so there's some new interesting stuff has come out about this.
The finger pointing alone could be a source of renewable energy.
Yes, in the hot air, absolutely.
Oh yeah, it's impressive.
Absolutely. There's Yeah, you could put some windmills up in front of the, some of these people shouting at each other. So anyway, the first story I have is from Ars Technica, and the title is $1 billion Bangladesh heist. Officials say SWIFT technicians left bank vulnerable. So some people from allegedly from the Bangladesh police and bank officials anonymously talked to Reuters and said that, hey, it's not really us, the people, the bank here in Bangladesh that messed up. It's actually the SWIFT organization that came out last year and dropped off this stuff, the SWIFT terminal. And they didn't even follow they didn't even follow their own security guidelines. And so some of the allegations, and so it's covered a little bit in here, but some of the other things I've read is that, it was the SWIFT technicians that went scrounging around the Bangladesh bank office and found that crappy $10 network switch to use. Apparently, and it is referenced in here, that the SWIFT engineers were tired of going in and out of the locked room that the computers were in to do their job, so they set up a wireless router in the locked room so they could access the I guess, quote, isolated network from outside the office, and then left it there, right? I mean, why would you take it down? That's kind of crazy.
The second one is bad. The first one, I gotta think this is what happened, and I don't know this to be fact. I'm speculating here, but how many times when you're a consultant, have you shown up to the site and you sent the customer 3 weeks ago the requirements that they needed to have and the gear and everything else, and they didn't have it, and now you're on site and you got to get stuff done.
Yeah, that's true.
And so what do? You find a way to make it work. You get it up and running, and you tell the customer, okay, but here's what you got to do when you get the stuff in. And they didn't do it.
Yeah, absolutely. That could be what happened.
It could be. I feel that, unless the SWIFT organization was truly a managed service provider, the Bangladesh Central Bank is still ultimately responsible for this. They own, they contracted to have somebody come in and set it up, but they still own it.
Yeah, those are details that we don't know. We may never know. I mean, maybe if it goes to some kind of trial or whatever, but it certainly is a plausible scenario, no question. You show up and say, okay, we're here to install the stuff, and they say, well, that's awesome, but we don't have any stuff ready to install, and so then it becomes a mad hunt for switches and hardware and stuff. So right. I mean, we don't know that that's what happened, but that's certainly a possibility. They do say that they also didn't disable USB ports. Let's see, what else did they say? The Wi-Fi thing from accessing the remote.
Yeah, that was a little tougher to forgive.
Yeah. Now
I can get it in the short term, but why wouldn't you be smart enough to remember to pull that down?
Yeah, exactly. Now here's the. And I've caused a little bit of controversy about this because
you think you have. You'd like to think you have.
Well, that's true. I am.
You'd like to think you have that kind of influence to even cause controversy.
In my own mind, I have caused controversy because I really don't think so. In the case of Bank of Bangladesh, it was apparently 4 computers. 4. Right. In a locked room. Okay. Now, I understand we talk endlessly about how hard it is to secure an enterprise or to keep people from clicking on links and things like that. We're talking about 4 computers that gated access to $27 billion. Okay? 4 computers that don't really need to be accessed very often. They're in a locked room. They control access to $27 billion. Did I say that?
So, I'm not good at math, but that's a lot of money per computer.
It should only be running the stupid Swift software. How? Okay, I understand in the context of an enterprise. Yes, shit is hard to secure. Absolutely not going to argue with that. This is for computers. These are not people's workstations.
But think about how the risk was accepted.
$27 billion. That's what. It's unforgivable.
So even yet it will be forgiven. You can see very easily how they're setting this up to say, well, the people from the Swift organization came and set this up, and we just did what they told us to do. So, what do we know? They're the experts.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. That's clearly.
I get it. It's insanity.
But
it's also incredibly easy to see how this could happen.
Well, it is, and there's a lot of discussion about how it's a targeted attack, and you know what? Absolutely, it's a targeted attack. The stuff that's come out about this clearly indicates very intricate knowledge of the Swift software,
yep,
of the processes at this bank and the other banks that have been targeted, by the way, because they're not all the same. They have some different processes, and the attacks have been tailored. However, it's still for computers. And I just want to say, if you had $27 billion of gold sitting in a room, you would probably think that a bank might figure out how to, I don't know, protect against the insider threat. I mean, okay, I get it. Insider threat and collusion is difficult to defend against. For computers, $27 billion. Gonna keep saying it.
But it's cyber. I get it, but dude, we're a bank. We're here to do banking stuff. We're not here to secure things. That's what apparently, by the way, the Bangladeshis sound like rednecks. That's what I've just decided. We're not here to secure that. The Swift guys, they come down here and they did that stuff. We got stuff to do.
Wow, that sounds just like them.
I don't know where that voice came from.
$27 billion.
And yet, they only got 81 million.
On accident. I mean, that alone, by the way, should tell us should tell us a lot about this, right?
Tell you what, Swift customers of the world, Jerry and I will be happy to secure your 4 computers for $50,000 a computer.
That's right.
What a deal!
I'm just saying. This is not.
What I want to know is, was there ever any sort of regulatory agency auditing that organization? And if so, how the hell did that pass?
Well,
and this goes back to the first time this came up. The Fed, basically, the federal bank basically said, because Bangladesh said, we got hacked, and it's the federal bank got hacked. And the Fed said, no, you said that's a valid request. And they were right. And then now the Swift organization is coming out going, you guys didn't secure your stuff. At the end of the day, you still have to take responsibility for your own environment, no matter what.
That's right. And Swift, by the way, there has been a number of additional cases, including one in Vietnam recently, where the bank apparently somehow detected and deflected an attempted attack on their Swift terminals. But
well, here's my question on that. First off, are we now into a shark attack reporting cycle? So now that this has become news, stuff that wouldn't have been reported before suddenly gets reported. How often? What's the normal baseline rate of attacks against the Swift infrastructure?
Yeah, it's hard. That is absolutely hard to say. I mean, it's clearly got to be a target because it's got
the money.
It's got the money. That's right.
Right.
But Swift continues, despite these new press reports. Swift continues to say, "Look, the Swift network has not been compromised."
No.
And they continue to say, banks, you guys need to protect your stuff.
Yeah, if somebody steals your checkbook and writes a check on your account, it's not the bank's fault.
Right. So that's and I know there was apparently last Friday there was some a communication that went out related to a recent apparently a recent attack which I guess allegedly looked and smelled a lot like what was going on with the Bank of Bangladesh, but it was different. Different stuff. Like they didn't have a printer; they used a PDF. They generated PDFs and so similar things. Instead of attacking the printer driver, they attacked the PDF reader. So that again, indicated some inside knowledge.
Is the PDF reader like the Walmart greeter? It's just a person who reads PDFs all day. They attack the poor guy.
That's really an unfunny joke.
Just a retiree trying to make some extra money.
Maybe we just found the problem. Oh, by the way, the FBI is convinced that this was an inside job.
Yes.
Allegedly, which kind of goes to our next story, which comes from CSO Online, and the title is "Malware Attacks on Two Banks Have Links with 2014 Sony Pictures Hack."
So now North Korea and the aliens are attacking banks?
Yes. Right.
Before we do that, I just want to say one thing. One of the stories we're linking to is a Wall Street Journal article story.
I'm not even going to talk about that one because it has a stupid registration because I tried to open it and it greeted me with registration. So
I am here to help. What you do is you get the headline, you punch it in Google News and you read it there. Yeah. Get you right past that paywall.
Yeah, I'm objecting to the whole thing. So
okay, I was trying to help our listeners, but fine, carry on.
Yeah, no worries. So anyway, it was a good article, though, I will say that. But I really, it's very off-putting when you have to log in. So,
and that's why we don't need passwords, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because they're just going to get stolen anyway. So anyway, the BAE Systems, they were the ones that kind of blew the lid off this whole thing when they did their report about the malware they found initially. And so they're claiming that there is quite a lot of similarity between the code, the malware that was used in these two Swift bank attacks, and some of the malware, or at least components of the malware that was allegedly used in the attack on Sony. And so it's kind of some of the irony is that, hey, the FBI has pinned the Sony hack on North Korea, and if attribution is to be believed, and people are using, they're not reusing other people's code,
because that would never ever 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 happen.
Never ever. I mean, we would assume, right, that the bad guys have intellectual property protection problems too, right? So they probably have DLP controls for their employees, like, is that a USB drive in your pocket? No.
And by pocket, you mean rectum?
Man, why do you have to go there?
I didn't. They did. I'm just reporting the news, man. I don't make it.
So anyway, but yeah, the irony was that the FBI is saying that these Swift attacks are inside, at least partly inside, and whereas Sony was North Korea. So,
well,
interesting.
So, and just to be clear, the portions of the code that was reused is actually some weird, kind of esoteric accessory code.
Yeah.
Like checking to see if the copy of the malware is already there, checking to how to delete itself, kind of some helper code, not necessarily the core of the malware.
See, I think that there's an underground Stack Exchange.
Well, one thing that I will give CSO credit for is it was a third paragraph in. They actually do something I never see anybody do, which is posit that maybe it isn't just that straightforward. So is North Korea seeking to boost its foreign currency reserves, or is someone conducting a false flag operation, or just reusing old code?
How about that? See,
I know.
I think my Stack Exchange idea is, see, I, you know,
So how would that work exactly?
well, so Stack Exchange is that is the website that programmers go to get help from each other, and so they post little snippets of code, and somebody says, hey, how do I want to delete my malware once it's on a system, and someone says, oh, here's some code that kind of does a good job of this, and now it's on the bad guy stackexchange.com or .onion, and now everybody is knows to go to that site, bad guy stackexchange.onion, and they find, oh, look at that, there's some code right there that does what I need, and I'll just copy that. And
How do we know it's not like in Learn to Write Malware in 31 Days, third edition?
well, I mean, it could very well be, absolutely,
Just saying.
yeah.
So this is the trouble. I mean, we're making a lot of jokes here, but this is the trouble when you try to look at code and decide if it's related or not, or if these actions are the same group or not. It's digital code that's easily replicated. And to be very clear, this BAE article that originally came out was on code that was updated to VirusTotal that's never been definitively linked to the attacks on the Swift network. Now, it sure as hell was written for it, and sure as hell looked like it should and would, and there's a 95 percentile it was, but it was not recovered from the site. It came from VirusTotal. So we're starting to build a little house of cards here on connections.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and in fact, I think it's actually once removed from the code, because they say it looks like something else that used a similar key, and this one used a different key. Anyway, or mutex, right? The name mutex. So it's kind of a tenuous link. Maybe there is a link, maybe there's not. Maybe there is a bad guy stack exchanger, or there's a bad guy malware how-to book,
Or
or
the Sony attack was never North Korea to begin with.
that.
Sony truther.
Oh dear! Now you've done it. Helicopters are coming.
Yeah, well, they know my address. They know where to find me.
So, yeah, I think look, this really just points, in my opinion, and we said this before on one of the last shows. If anything, and if we do ever find out who did this, I suspect we're going to find that it's not all that sophisticated of an operation. I mean, the net effect is that in aggregate, it looks pretty sophisticated, but you just don't need that much in the way of resources and know how to do this. You just have to have will and desire. This is not complicated stuff.
I would agree up until the point where all the very, very precise interactions of the Swift network come into play.
Yeah, but the Swift software is available for download. It's
But knowing about the specific printers and how to rewrite those.
If I can get Poison Ivy on your computer and watch you do what you do for a while.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, this is kind of like a really complex Lego thing, right? I mean, you can build little Legos, you can build big Legos. You just have to know the components and how to use them properly.
And and if you're after $1 billion, you're pretty motivated to hang out for a while. And
I still want to know what happened to the guy who made the typo that cost him the 900.
Oh man, he's got those concrete boots, I bet. Swimming with the fishes.
We should sick Bob on that story. He could probably find out for us.
Yes. So yeah, and by the way, that again kind of points to the potential for immaturity, or maybe, as you pointed out, maybe it was the Edward Snowden moment of.
Are you calling me immature? What?
Yeah,
what?
Yeah. That's what I.
Sad but true.
Yep. So anyway, that's what we got for this week. I think we're about out of time, and I'm ready for bed. So.
But we do have one extra special announcement that just hit before we went to record, and I don't even know what to say about this.
It's
we were.
shocking. I mean, normally we haven't even ever been the bridesmaid, right? It's like we've not even been invited to the wedding.
I've often been a ring bear.
Okay, well.
They dressed me up in a bear costume, and
Wow.
It's true. So,
Yeah.
in what clearly must be a mistake, we were nominated. You and I, and this show was nominated for Best Security Podcast for the 2016 EU Security Blogger Awards.
And that is incredible.
That is awesome. I haven't even processed that yet. It just happened just before we went to record tonight.
Yeah, I'm gonna go out drinking tonight. So.
Well, we are humbled and stunned and happy and thrilled, but there's some very, 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 very good podcasts nominated with us. So we're not expecting to win, but we certainly would enjoy a vote.
That's right.
And it's we'll put it in the show notes, or you can just kind of do a Google search for 2016 EU Security Bloggers. Oh, I just lost it. EU Security Blogger Awards. Yeah, 2016 EU Security Blogger Awards.
That's right. And yeah. So yeah, we definitely appreciate the vote there. Thank you so much to everybody, to those who have donated to our Patreon campaign too. That's very, very nice of you. And let's see, if you have any feedback or questions, send us an email to info@defensivesecurity.org. We're almost to the point where we're going to have to do a listener mail episode, because we're getting a lot of it.
It's true.
Let's see, you can follow the show on Twitter @DefensiveSec. You can follow Mr. Callett on Twitter @Lurg, me on Twitter @MaliciousLink. You can find links to the stories we talked about tonight on our website at www.defensivesecurity.org. And with that, we will talk again next week. Thanks a lot.
Have a great week, everybody. Thanks for listening, as always. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I like the ocean. I love to listen to the ocean. I like to look at the ocean. I'm not a beach guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
all that sand should be turned into microchips.
In time. It's part of my plan.
I mean people love the llamas,
I know.
Although I will say they have no appreciation of how much work it is to clean up after llamas.
That's true. We need to make a Roomba that's specifically for cleaning up after llamas.
Oh, the llama ba.
The llama ba.
Yeah. It would be really big, like the size of a Hummer.
We need to figure out what the natural predator of a llama is, by the way, and then extend the joke out one more level.
Yeah, it's got to be like a cougar, right? Which is in itself its own joke, right?
Oh, I found the guard llama. There's a guard llama. It's a llama, something I can't pronounce, alpaca or hybrid, that is used in farming to protect sheep, goats, hens, or other livestock from coyotes, dog, foxes, and other predators.
I have heard that before, actually.
It's a guard llama.
Yeah.
How do we not have these standing in front of all of our firewalls?
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
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 Bye-bye.